Today we discuss Class 9, Poem 1, The Road Not Taken. This well known poem is about making choices and the choices that shape us. Robert Frost is an American poet who writes simply but insightfully about common, ordinary experiences. So, here I would like to mention the poem at a glance, like a point wise summary of the poem, The Road Not Taken. Here, the poem talks about the poet. He was standing at a place where two roads paths diverged in a yellow wood. He was sorry that he couldn't travel both at the same time. He looked down, one as far as he could till it bent away in the undergrowth. The other road was just as fair and perhaps presented a better claim. The second road was grassy, less frequented by travelers and wanted wear. The poet had to make a choice, and he resolved the dilemma. He chose the second road and kept the first for another day. The poet had a doubt, and he would never get a chance to travel on the first road again. The choice had been made, and it made all the difference in his life. It was very difficult to say whether the choice was right or wrong on the spur of the moment. But the poet neither seems to be very happy nor very sad with his choice and leaves the end open to the readers and their choices. Right. So we start with this slide. Here you can see the road not taken poem introduction. In this we come to know the road symbolizes our life. The poet says that the path that we don't choose in our life is the road not taken. See, the path that we don't choose in our life is the road not taken. He describes his feelings about the choice that he had left in the past. The path which we have chosen decides our future, our destination. We should be very, very careful when we take decision. The important message that the poet wants to give is that the choice that we make has an impact on our future, and if we make a wrong choice, we regret it but can't go back on it. So, we must be wise while making choices. That's a beautiful message that he gives through this poem. We should be very wise while making choices. The road not taken poem explanation stanza wise. Here, just imagine that the poet is standing. Even you can imagine yourself. You are standing there where two roads diverged. Okay, so two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I couldn't travel both. And be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Here the word meaning diverged. It's separated and took a different direction. Yellow wood, a forest with decomposing leaves. Undergrowth, a dense growth of plants and bushes means the forest. Okay, now the explanation. Once the poet was walking down a road and then there was a diversion. There were two different paths and he had to choose one out of them. The poet says that he was one person, he could travel on one road only. He had to choose one out of these two roads. Yellowwood means a forest with leaves which are wearing out and they have turned yellow in color. So it refers to the season of autumn. It represents a world which is full of people, where people have been living for many years. They represent the people who are older than the poet. Also, the poet kept standing there and looked at the path very carefully as far as he could see it. Before taking the path, he wanted to know how it was. Was it suitable for him or not? He was able to see the path till from where it curved, after which it was covered with trees and was hidden. It happens in our life also. When we have choices, we have alternatives, but we have to choose only one out of them. We take time to think about the pros and cons, whether it is suitable for us or not, and only then we take a decision on what path we should choose. That's what it's a life lesson. We have to think, we should be very wise while taking the decision, because the decision which we take, that plays a major role for our future. Stanza 2 then took the other. just as fair and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as far as that the passing day had won them really about the same. Fair as good as the other one, words meaning. Claim better option, grassy unused, wanted where had not been used, had not been used. And the meaning of the second stanza, the poet kept on looking at one path for a long time to check if it is the right path for him or not. And then he decided and started walking on another path because he felt that the both paths were equally good. He says just as fair. So he felt that both paths were equally good and started walking on one of them. So here he stood and took the decision, and finally he chose less travel and started walking on one of them, right? He adds that maybe he felt that the path was better for him, so he chooses it as it had grass on it, which means that it was unused, less traveled by. Not many people had walked on this path earlier. That's why this path was grassy and wanted where had not been used. What is the meaning? Had not been used means that it was not walked over by many people. After he walked on the path for some distance, he realized that both the paths had been worn out the same way. Both the paths were similar and worn out even in our life. We take any path or option, but all of them have the same benefits, disadvantages, problems, challenges, and we must face them. We think that we are choosing a better option, but it's not that way. Here, through this poem, we come to know that when we take decision, once we have taken it, we compare. Sometime when we taste the fruit of success, we won't feel bad. But if it goes wrong, we think we just started comparing. It's human nature. But we should understand one thing: whatever we do, whatever we start, there will be the same benefit, disadvantages, problems, challenges. But we should have a strong heart to face that. We should be a hero in our battle. That's it. And stanza 3. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden back. Black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. It knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Here the meaning for the word trodden. It means walked over. Walked over. And the meaning for the third stanza, the poet says that both the paths were similar both the roads were similar that morning. Both had leaves on them, and no one had stepped on them as they were still green in color. He decided that that day he would take one path and keep the other path for another day. Although he knew that one way leads on to another way, he knew that he couldn't go back on the choice that he had made. Similarly, even in our life, once we choose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option, and we never get a chance to come back and take the other option that we had left earlier. We can say, why can't we can come and take? But here it talks about the life, the time, okay, and the age. When we started doing something after 10 years, if we come back to take the other option, that's not possible. Okay, so we should be very careful about taking decision. Right, and stanza 4, I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Words, that sigh, deep breathe, hence here in the future. Here in the future, so here the word ages hence means in the future. Right, the meaning. He says that in the future, he will take a deep breath. That say that once upon a time, he had reached such a point in life that there were two options for him. And he traveled on that road which had been traveled upon by lesser number of people, less traveled by. That decision of his decided his future. Similarly, in future, when you grow up, then you will say that once upon a time, when you were young, you had two options. The choice that you made you what you became of it. This is a very strong message for all the students, that you should be wise and be careful while making choices out of the options that you have in your life, because your future depends on the choice that you make today. That's the end. So we should be very, very careful when we take the decision and making choices. Okay. Hope you enjoyed this poem. We'll meet again. Thank you all.